Hey, BookTube! This is Jack from Jack's Reading Corner, and I have my last book to review for May. Um, Sorry, but I do have a cold, so I'm gonna try to be, as always, I'm gonna try to be clear and enunciate everything I say. But, the last book I was able to squeeze in before the end of the month was The Archivist by Martha Cooley. And in all honesty, even though I was interested in reading this book, I was intrigued by it, but it was more, in all honesty, I finally decided to pick it up to finish out the month because it looked like it would be a quick read with the way it was set up. It has the chapters are very short. In the middle is just journal entries or diary entries. Okay, so this story centers around this one man, Matthias. Let me see if I can find his last name. See if his last name. I don't know. It would take me a while so I'm not going to even bother looking for it. Matthias, or Matt for short. And he is a librarian and an archivist at one of the prestigious colleges. I'm guessing either Princeton, Yale, or Harvard, one of those. And he meets a student at the school who is looking for these letters written by T.S. Eliot to Emily Hale, a female companion of his. And because this woman Roberta Spire has a lot of similarities to his long past wife. They're both Roberta and his wife were Jewish. They both are poets, and they both have a love for T.S. Eliot. And like his wife, and like Judith, she also found out a secret about her Jewish heritage. She found out that she was Jewish, and then his wife found out that her biological parents died died in the Holocaust. So, because of their common ground, it forces him to look back on what happened between him and his wife, Judith, and how their marriage essentially fell apart, and he felt the need to put her in a mental institution, and she had basically a mental breakdown and committed suicide. And we learned the reason for this is because she had served one of those survivors of the Holocaust who had escaped to America, and she was feeling a lot of survivor's guilt and had become obsessed with preserving the memory of those people who died in the Holocaust, and keeping up with what is going on. Is Hitler and his followers, are they paying for the consequences of the horrible, monstrous things they did to the Jewish people? And being a Christian, Matthias being a Christian and a logical thinker, he does not understand this. He doesn't understand why she can't just move on from this, and why she's just dwelling on this whole horrible situation, and why it hurts her and causes her tons of guilty feelings. And eventually, it leads him to believe that she is too obsessed with this, and like I said, he sends her to a mental institution. So, this was such an interesting book. It's the best word I think of to describe it is very bittersweet. It's like Matt and his wife Judith really did love each other, but he could not understand her and he could not connect with her, and he didn't know how to handle her passionate, emotional feelings towards what happened to her religion, her people, the people of her religion, and he only handled it the only way he could think of how to handle it. And she slowly loses her mind and becomes angry and sad, heartbroken, because her husband betrayed her trust, and didn't take the time to try to understand her. Now, I do think that, and maybe this is because I do kind of sympathize with Matt, because I myself am a Christian, and I feel like Judith was so angry and emotional and feeling all these guilty feelings that she took it out all on her husband, who was not really helping the situation. And I feel like that was a bit unfair on him, for him to, he was. No, I'm not saying that he handled it great or anything. He did not handle it very well, but he didn't know how to handle it, and she was just constantly attacking him, and he did not understand why she was so, why she was so obsessing over this. So their relationship, they had a beautiful relationship in the beginning. And it's so tragic that it just fell apart because of this. And the author, I think, is really saying with the story how a lot of times people of different religions that get married, a lot of times that can ruin a relationship unless you try to understand the other person's religion and form a compromise with your differing belief systems. And of course, it was even harder because this was during a time when Jewish people, it was the Holocaust. It was it was towards the end of the Holocaust, but it was still it was just starting to end. So it was and Judith kept pointing out all the negative aspects of the Christian religion. And I do believe every religion has negative parts to it, especially with the way a lot of religious people treat religion. Some people become zealots about religion, and they make it seem controlling. I mean, I think that's why that's one of the reasons why there are some people that are atheists. Because one, they find it hard to believe in a higher power with all the horrible, crappy stuff that happens in the world. And, there's not a logical scientific explanation for the existence of an afterlife. But also, I think it's because people really shove religion down your throat and are very, pushy about it. And I think that book kind of was a little about that too, in a way. And both Judith and Matt were so adamant about their beliefs. And like I said, it was a very controversial time because the Jewish people were suffering and were being persecuted. There was genocide. They were being wiped out. And she was one of the survivors. So imagine having to deal with that, having to deal with knowing that you survived while these other innocent people died, and they were no different than you as far as what you believed in. Somehow you just happened to get lucky. And I think Judith the only person she could take it out on was her aunt and uncle who raised her, who she thought were her parents, but then she finds out that her biological parents had died. And it's very, it's funny though, she doesn't realize, I don't think they ever told her aunt and uncle, I don't think they ever pointed out the fact that her parents were really kind of assholes. They were kind of jerks, but sorry, I apologize. But, so she had no idea that her parents were really horrible, and I don't know if that would make a difference with her feelings towards her aunt and uncle, at least about that part. I don't think she would still feel the way she would feel about what was going on, about, what was happening to her people, and how she had these survivor's guilt feelings. And And I say, and the sweet part, I think, is that the whole Roberta storyline helps Matt get a redemption and redeem himself and forgive himself and try, if since he couldn't help his wife and he failed her, he could help Roberta in a way. He could be there for her and make sure that she doesn't make the same mistake he did. So I thought that was a nice little parallel, that it was his chance to fix things and to heal his heart a little bit and to make up for what to fix what he couldn't fix with his wife. Not that Roberta needed fixing, but you know what I mean. Even though this is not like a thriller, you think it feels like it was written by like a thriller, as in like very short chapters, straight to the point of the matter of the chapter. There were no meandering or not a lot of description, so it was a very fast read. And what I really liked, my favorite part was the middle section, because that section was Judith's diary of when she was in the mental institution, and we get some insight on who she is and her feelings during that time, and her slow descent, her slow falling into this I wouldn't say insanity or madness, because it wasn't insanity or madness, but it was a mental breakdown. And one reviewer on Goodreads said compared it to what happened to the protagonist in the Bell Jar. I don't remember her name. I read that book, but for me it was just okay, and maybe I would feel differently now if I reread it, but I already donated to the bookstore. And I don't feel like rebuying it again, and maybe I'll get it from the library one day because it's a quick read. So, but a reviewer compared it to what happened to the woman in the Bell Jar. But I really appreciate it, because a lot of people who have experience in this, or like have relatives that have experienced mental illness, not just this, what happens to her, not just like a mental breakdown, but any kind of mental illness, any kind of illness that messes with your mind and changes your brain and your way of thinking, or like slowly kills your mind. You always kind of want to know what that person is thinking, how they're feeling. And this, of course, shows you an insight. Now, of course, the characters will never really, still don't know, because it's not like Judith voluntarily tells them what she's thinking. I mean, she might show it, but she'll never actually explain to them what she's really feeling. I mean, she keeps, granted, she does kept asking Matt to take her home, but he believed that she needs to be here, and that she wasn't okay, that she needs to get better. And she, of course, disagreed. And when you're reading these, it's kind of funny, in reading those entries, I kept going back and forth thinking, was Matthias right and she needed to be here? Not to say that her feelings and her anger and sadness and guilty feelings were misplaced. It's understandable that she feels the way she feels about the Jewish people who died in the Holocaust. But maybe, in a way, Matthias, you wonder, was Matt right? That maybe she needed to just not let her guilty feelings take over and just forgive herself for the fact that she survived? Or do you think that maybe she was feeling so guilty that she had a breakdown, a mental breakdown, and fell apart? And maybe if she had just forgiven herself for surviving, and for, that maybe this wouldn't have happened, and maybe that's what Matt was thinking, that sending her to this place allowed her to forgive herself. Or at least that was the potential, that's what he was hoping for. But we get all of her feelings, not just those feelings, but how she feels about her aunt and uncle. Like, she calls her uncle a coward for not doing anything, for not helping her preserve the memory of the people that died in the Holocaust. She's hurt and feels betrayed by Matt, because she does really love her husband, but he sent her to the institution, making her feel like she was crazy. And of course, seeing how she feels about her doctors, and I imagine a lot of people like that, people that are going through a mental breakdown, probably don't really like their doctors because their doctors are giving them medication and trying to keep them there. And of course, their minds are not, they don't think the way we do at the time. They're not thinking the same way we are, so they think they see themselves as prisoners in the institution. Even though it's a place meant to heal them and to protect them and take care of them. Now, I imagine like back in the 60s, even it might have definitely seemed like a prison back in the 60s. I don't know a lot, so don't take my word for it. But anyway, I'm sorry if my noises are really grossing you guys out. It's just if I don't breathe and I don't try to, whatever I'm doing, then my nose will become even more congested. I feel like, and maybe I'm not doing anything at all. I don't think I really am. I think I'm just sucking it back in. But I'm really terrible at blowing my nose. But anyway, enough grossing you guys out. Let me get back to the book. So I thought that was really interesting. And then you kind of, you can definitely see when, and he does talk about in the beginning of the book, what happened to her and everything. I mean, we already know she's dead in the beginning. But you can tell, as she writes, I think 3 or 4 years of diary entries, and so you can tell when they become less and less, when the entries are more sporadic, that she's thinking about it's time to go. Although I think some of them, it was sporadic because she was only writing about the visits from her family and maybe the occasional visits from the doctors. But I don't think that there's a lot of reference to T.S. Eliot and poetry, but I don't think you have to have read that. I think most literary, even if you're not into poetry, or I think most people that are into literature and reading would be familiar, at least a little bit familiar, or would recognize the name T.S. Eliot. But I took a poetry class, but but even then I was already familiar with the name T.S. Eliot. But I'm just not, I have trouble comprehending poetry, and, I can write it, but I would rather read prose than poetry. But like I said, that's my favorite part, is her journal, her diary entries. I keep saying journal, but it really is a diary, but, refer to it as a diary, but I say journal because I always prefer the word journal over diary. But, I think they're technically diary entries. But I think I did give it 4 stars on Goodreads originally, but I'm thinking about changing it to 5 stars. I don't know. It's hard for me to rate books. I almost want to not rate books, but, choose the star rating, but at the same time, I feel like I don't like leaving it blank either. I know that's weird, but it's just, because, although now that I'm trying to get into the habit of actually writing out my reviews, instead of saying, I really like this book because of this, this, and this, I'm actually kind of trying to explain it a little bit better. I was actually looking at my review for Outlander, and that was not that great a review. I just was trying to get something, say my feelings a little bit, just get something written down, but I no longer have the book because, yes, I like the series and everything, and I'm gonna finish it. But I ended up giving the books to Terry from Florida. I sent them with her birthday gift, because I think she would be more willing to read them, really read them and maybe read them again after she's read the whole series. Like, she would be more into it than I would. Plus, she wanted to watch this show, and, granted the books aren't that expensive, but she's not made of money, so, I just figured I'd help her out, and since she can't get the show, I'll send her my copy of the books. So, which I hope, because I think my cousin gave me her copy of the third book, so I think she ended up rebuying the third book in a more pristine, nicer looking copy. But although I guess at this point she doesn't has time to read anymore. But anyway, so I don't know. I might stop doing star ratings. But anyway, I really like the design. Like, you have these books on the cover, and then on the spine it looks like the spine of an old book. I thought that was really cool. But it was really good. It was very emotional, and if you like the sound of it, I would recommend it. The Archivist by Martha Cooley. And that is the last book I squeezed in. Currently I'm reading quite a bit of books. I'm almost done with King of Scars. And like I said, I'm pretty sure, I think I know what's going to happen at the end of that book. And actually watching Holly Hart's books talk about how the characters react at the end of the big thing that happens at the end of the book, and how the other characters react. She's a little surprised by how they, thinking, they would not react like that. So I think I know what's going to happen going by that. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm almost finished with it. But I don't know if I'll bring that when we go to my grandma's house, though. I don't know, I guess I should, but I have such a hard time thinking books. But, in fact, I was going to bring Priory of the Orange Tree when we go on the cruise, but it's the hardback copy because they don't have a paperback copy yet in the US. But then I was just thinking the other night, maybe, I was all adamant to bring it and everything. I was like, you know what, maybe I should just, bring mass market paperbacks, because I have them, because I used to only buy those for the longest time. Well, no, I had regular paperbacks, but anyway. I started reading War and Peace. Which is really good, and I wonder if all Russian writers write like that. Because both Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, I really should figure out how to pronounce that last name. The way they write, it feels very a modern book. But the way both those books are written, his War and Peace and Crime and Punishment, so it was easy for me to read. It still took a long time, and War and Peace is a pretty chunky book. It's probably over 1,000 pages long, but I find it very easy to read. And then comparing it to The Count of Monte Cristo, yes, I'm enjoying that. I'm engaged in that story. It's a pretty easy read, but the writing style does feel a little similar to Jane Austen's way of writing. No, where it's not super complex. It's not like Old English, like Anglo-Saxon writing style or anything like that. It's not like, Beowulf writing style or something like that, but it's still a little more, the style is still a little more challenging and sometimes tedious. But I'm still, like I said, I'm still enjoying that, and I was feeling guilty, so I did read a little bit of that as well. I got through the chapter where Albert has invited the Count to his house for breakfast, the house he's staying at, and when he comes to Paris, and they're just talking, and when him and his friends are talking, as his friends came over to meet the Count. Well, they didn't come over to meet the Count; they just came over to visit. But they find out the Count is coming to visit. And they're just talking, and they're offering all these places because the Count says he's never been to Paris, so they're offering all these suggestions. And there's little hints throughout the book You know, if you know the story, there's little hints throughout the book that the Count has like very interesting reactions to people that Albert mentions, like um like Danglers and how he's doing and how he's a baron now and he's very financially secure and so and he kind of reacts. It's a very subtle reaction, but he does react a little bit. Of course, we as the audience, we as the reader, I'm assuming, realize the Count is Edmond Dantes. And if you didn't realize that, then sorry, I just spoiled you guys. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's called the Count of Monte Cristo, and our main character, we were introduced to Edmond Dantes in the beginning, so they wouldn't be this. I mean, I guess you could imagine there being two different characters. Like this Count helps Edmund, possibly, could have helped Edmund. If you're not familiar with the story already, I don't know, but and I did read Gilded Wolves. I have been reading Gilded Wolves as well, and the map that they stole from, or the compass with the map inside it, or clues to the map inside it, with the Horus Eye or whatever, or the replica. I don't. The guy who that belonged to, Hypnos, tells them he knows that Severance stole it. So he persuades him to. He threatens his friends, his team, his crew, and he's like, if you don't help me and give me this map, the real map, and I can give you your title back, and I won't hurt your friends, essentially, that kind of thing. So now I'm guessing this is the actual heist that they have to go break into the, I wonder if that's going to have a sequel to it, like, is it going to be a duology, like Six of Crows was, because that's what's compared to Six of Crows, and there are similarities, but it's a very different book, obviously. That's the problem when in marketing they are like, if you like this book, then you'll love this book, which sometimes I like doing that, I like those kinds of things, but the problem is comparing it and saying it's the next Six of Crows or the next Harry Potter. I feel like that's a bit risky. Because people are going to be wanting to be like that. And if it's not exactly like that, or at least really close to it, you're going to get disappointed. So, now as far as War and Peace goes, let's see. Well, they're all these people are, it's during the Napoleonic War, just like Count of Monte Cristo. I think I think the Count of Monte Cristo was during and after the war, I think. I'm not 100% sure. Or it had, but as this first part takes place during the war, in War and Peace does, and we're introduced to the characters, and they're talking. They all have their opinions about the war and stuff. I'm just until I get farther into a book, it's hard for me to explain what's going on in the book. I'm also still reading Priory the Orange Tree, which in that one, they're trying. There's in the. I don't remember. It was the east or the west. I think maybe in the east, or it might be I cannot remember. I have to look it up, but I'm too lazy to get up. And either in one of the nations, they have the Queen Sabran, I think I'm saying it right, has finally agreed to wed one of the lords, Lord Abrak. I think that's how you say it. And Iad suspects that, I remember her name, yay, I remember her name. Suspects that is starting to suspect that these attacks on Queen Sabran were set up by one of her advisors, Lord Combe. I don't know if it's Combe or Combe. The E is silent. Or her spy, her hawk or whatever. That maybe he can set it up so he can drive her to be so afraid that she'll feel like she needs to marry someone. And she's being pressured to marry this guy so that she can make an heir, because they believe that the only thing protecting them from the Nameless One, the evil dragon, is our worm. I don't know if I say that right, because someone pronounced it differently than I thought you're supposed to pronounce it. But they believe that her family line is the only one protecting them from the Nameless One. That if her line dies out, like if she doesn't give birth to an heir, then they won't. Then the people of this part of the country, of this nation, will no longer be safe from the Nameless One. And there's a prophecy that he will come back, that the Nameless One will come back. And so she is. Okay, so basically this is turning into an update. And it's not even, I still have to work tomorrow, so it's not my day off tomorrow. But my day off will be on Monday. So I guess I could do it Sunday night. But I'm just gonna keep going. So one of the Nameless Ones, his little minion, shows up and threatens Queen Sabran, and she's thinking, oh, the saint will protect me, but right when the dragon is about to breathe fire on her, you realize that she is being protected by Ian's sorcerer, her magic. Which I think she gets that from the orange tree. I think that's the reference to the title. But, of course, she doesn't believe in Ian's magic. She doesn't believe in magic at all. And Ian is seen, and she didn't see Ian do this, protect her. She didn't realize that this woman protected her. But Ian is seen by another lady, I can't remember her name. And she's gonna tell on Ian that she's committing sorcery. But she threatens this girl, who is actually, turns out this girl is also the one who's suspects that the Nameless One is going to return, believes in the prophecy, and she sends her current lover to go to another part of the world to get help from the other people. And so she believes that's going to happen and stuff, and I don't think Ian really believes that the Nameless One can come back, necessarily. And then the last part I read was Ian's, sort of father figure returns and tells her that that the mother, the prioress, the woman who runs the convent that she originally came from, has died, and a new woman has taken over, and Ian must return. But Ian feels like she needs to stay and help protect Sabran. And she suspects something is going on, whether the Nameless One comes back or not. And she's trying to get her foster father to talk to the head of the priory and be like, give me a little more time to stay. And, at least until, to figure out, to help find a way to protect the queen and stuff. Queen Sabran. And meanwhile, you have Artloff, who has come to another enemy kingdom to talk to them and find out they worship the Nameless One now, and he's trying to find out. And this is, I think, where her father was, where Sabran's father was, and where I think he ended up dying. So they go there. Him and his friend Kit go there to find out what's going on and why they worship the Nameless One, and figure out if Sabran's father is alive. And then um, what is her, Tane is still training. She's going through all these trials to become, a warrior, a warrior, and she's still being taunted by Taroso. I think that's how you say his name. And he's all like thinking he's superior, he's a noble, he deserves it more than she does, and she could never get it because she's of a different lower class and all that. And she's also feeling guilty about her friend who wanted it too, but she got sent away to another part to become something else. So it's like and she's worried that they will lose touch and not lose their friendships. They'll go in different directions and no longer be friends. But I haven't spent time with those characters in a while, so I guess the last couple chapters were about Ian. And then I didn't realize I was starting to feel, because I was watching Olive from Book Olive's video, and she is big into nonfiction, and she, so it was like, she was talking about her, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have a nonfiction, I need to read some of my nonfiction, because I've gotten a lot of nonfiction over the last couple years. Like, I've either bought it, or I got it for Christmas or my birthday, so I need to read some of it. So I took out, what is it? I can't think of her name right now. The French queen who was like, let them eat cake, or that's what they said that she was saying. Marie Antoinette, The Journey. I took that back off my shelf and started reading that. I haven't gotten very far. Marie Antoinette has arrived in France and has been stripped of her Austrian identity. It's like this whole ceremony thing where they will, take off all her Austrian garments and she has to dress like a French woman. And she's no longer Austrian. She's French. So, not much. She's met all of her attendants and stuff, and some of, So I got, so not only did I give you a review, but I also gave you update on my reading right now. So I might not even have any, I may basically there might be no point in me posting a video tomorrow afternoon, because I'll basically be talking about what I just talked about just now. So, I did, of course I brought His Majesty's Dragons with me, and I tried to read that at work, but again, I only have 15 minutes, so I think we're far out on chapter 8, where, Lawrence and Temeraire are training, and Granby, the guy one of the first guys he met when he arrived, is, this guy has proven himself a really good candidate to be, his second, or whatever, his first lieutenant or something. But, of course, his first encounter with Granby was not very good. Granby did not make a very good impression on Lawrence. And so, but then Lawrence sees this guy is very, he's a good soldier. And very respectful and honorable, and, and so he's realized, I don't like this guy. I don't trust him, but he's good. He's good he's a good aviator. He's a good soldier. So they talk, and Granby at this point has realized the error. He has realized I was being a douchebag before. You and Timur are good, good people. Not that Timur is an actual physical person, but you know what I mean. And so now he's picking his team, his crew. And we've been introduced to some female dragon riders, some female dragons. I have a feeling that the female Lieutenant Catherine is going to hopefully she plays a bigger role, because that's when we're reading this book. You kind of want the female characters to have at least a little bit of a bigger role than what they have. Goodness, maybe she could be a love interest for Lawrence or something. Because essentially, the woman he was going to marry is all like, no, I can't marry you. Because I know what it means that you're now an aviator. You ride dragons, it's dangerous. You're going to be traveling a lot. You could die. Did I mention dangerous? And, you know, it's not, the aviators don't have the best reputation. But today I didn't really read much. I mean, I read a little bit, like, one of the dragons in the army was in the army that's actually doing the fighting right now. That dragon got hurt, so Temeraire and Lawrence and Granby and Berkeley and all these guys have to go rescue that dragon, and that's around the time that Lawrence realized that he needs he didn't like Granby before, but he's a good soldier. So I hope you guys understood everything I just said. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you haven't, and click the bell icon below if you want to know when I upload and post new videos. And as always, I hope you are enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you later. Alright, bye!